From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired!
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Eric Ham in Washington, D.C. Lots to get to today, from the race for the White House to an assassination plot involving the Israeli Prime Minister. But first, a look at the latest headlines. Russia has achieved a major milestone of 4,000 kamikaze drones per day. Vladimir Putin says plans are to produce 1.4 million suicide drones per year. Former President Donald Trump says Israel will be eradicated if he doesn't win in November. The Republican presidential candidate accuses his Democratic rival Kamala Harris of allowing anti-Semitism in America. Mexico blames the United States for creating divisions and causing infighting among members of the deadly Sinaloa cartel. Two warring factions of the cartel clashed last week, leaving at least 30 people dead. Sri Lanka votes for its next president tomorrow. Over 17 million voters will cast their ballot for the first time after a severe economic collapse forced its president to flee the country back in 2022. And the death toll from floods crosses 285 in Nigeria. Officials say at least 400,000 people have been displaced amid widespread waterlogging. We begin in the Middle East. An Israeli citizen has been detained by Israel's Secret Service on suspicion of plotting an assassination attempt on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israeli police and intelligence officials say the suspect went to Iran twice and met Iranian intelligence officials. According to the Israeli police, the suspect received heavy payouts from Tehran to assassinate Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, and several high-ranking officials.
An incident that sets a new bar of severity and audacity that we have not yet known. We are talking about an Israeli who, during a war at the state of Israel's toughest time, enters Iran, holds a meeting with Iranian intelligence agents who offer him to assassinate senior figures in the state of Israel, no less. The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, the head of Shin Bet, and other high-ranking officials, all for large amounts of money.
Now, the suspect also traveled to Turkey last month, where he met other Iranian officials who, according to Israel, are linked to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps.
He, of course, doesn't confirm any offenses of him betraying the state's security, nor harming the state's security. He did what he did for his businesses and later found himself in a situation where he couldn't do a thing. As you can also see in the indictment facts, the indictment itself says that he refused any offer and did not cooperate with any offer.
The detention of the Israeli citizen comes at a time when tensions between Israel and its neighbors is at an all-time high. Now, both Iran and Turkey have called out Israel for its actions in Gaza and against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Meanwhile, Israeli jets carried out a massive air raid in southern Lebanon and destroyed over 1,000 Hezbollah rocket launcher sites last night. In response, Hezbollah said it fired at least 140 rockets into Israel on Friday. Additionally, Hezbollah's chief accused Israel of crossing the red line. The Iran-backed group said the pager and walkie-talkie explosions are being treated as a declaration of war.
What happened on Tuesday and Wednesday? On Tuesday, I only want to give a summary, as you all know what happened. Thousands of pagers were targeted by the Israeli enemy, and they were all detonated at the same time. The enemy violated, through this attack, all the regulations, laws, and red lines.
Israeli jets carried out sonic booms over Beirut, which could be heard on air as Hezbollah's chief gave his speech. Meanwhile, the White House has called for a diplomatic solution to the recent escalation between Israel and Hezbollah. However, neither side is willing to sit at the negotiating table. Here in the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are locked in a tight race just 45 days before the presidential election. The latest polls by the New York Times, the Philadelphia Inquirer, and the Siena College show them tied nationally at 47%. However, Kamala Harris is leading Donald Trump by 4 percentage points in the crucial swing state of Pennsylvania. Around 50% voters prefer the vice president, while 46% back the former president in the state. This slight lead has remained unchanged since early August, as the Democratic presidential nominee has garnered the support of women, black voters, and younger voters. Meanwhile, a separate poll by the Washington Post found that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are essentially tied in Pennsylvania, with Harris ahead by just 1 point. Both of these polls suggest that the economy, immigration, crime, healthcare, and abortion remain the top issues for voters. The Washington Post poll showed that Donald Trump is believed to be better at handling the economy, immigration, and crime and safety, while Kamala Harris holds a huge advantage on abortion and a slight edge on health care. On Thursday, the vice president sat down with TV personality Oprah Winfrey for an emotional interview where she touched on various topics, including gun control and reproductive rights. Now, both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are expected to take an aggressive approach in the final days of their campaigns as the race for the White House comes down to the wire. And staying in the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris recently addressed the Hispanic community in Washington, D.C. She talked about America's ongoing immigration crisis, affordable housing, and reproductive rights of women. However, what grabbed attention was the vice president's seemingly altered tone, which netizens claim is a fake Latina accent. Here's more on the story.
Accents, a way of pronouncing words that is unique to a country or a social group and makes one stand out in the crowd. Accents are a wonderful thing that we share as humans, as they're a part of our identity and cultural roots. But faking an accent to simply fit in might seem odd. In popular culture, this behavior is also called code switching, which is now proving to be troublesome for US Vice President Kamala Harris. On Wednesday, the Democratic presidential nominee addressed the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C. She talked about America's housing crisis, their broken immigration system, Social Security, and Medicare.
We will build together millions of new homes and give first-time home buyers.
However, what caught people's attention was her accent that people said was not her usual voice.
So many friends. I love you back. I want to recognize Chair Barragan. Where are you, my dear friend?
This video has now gone viral on social media and has been viewed more than 3 million times. Netizens say Kamala Harris put on a fake Latina accent to make herself appealable to the Hispanic community. MAGA supporters were quick to chime in as well, mocking Harris for her slightly altered tone. Though this is not the first time the presidential hopeful seemed to be switching her accent. Last week, she attended the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's Phoenix Awards dinner, where she said hello to the crowd in an odd accent before switching back to her usual speech.
Extremist allies intend to take our nation backward.
And prior to that, a controversy erupted over her altered manner of speaking during Labor Day rally in Michigan.
Oh, it's good to be in the House of Labor. I want to thank you.
Critics have pointed out to Harris's code switching and accused her of speaking with different accents in different constituencies.
Part of what
I believe in...
Several Republicans have mocked her, saying Harris is capable of changing her accent for so many audiences.
Who are across the aisle, as they say.
This year, the Vice President's accent became a topic of discussion back in July, when she appeared to speak in a southern accent while campaigning in Atlanta.
To support these extraordinary student athletes, and it is good to be here with so many leaders.
However, people have been slamming her accent switch since 2021, when she seemingly mimicked a French accent. Earlier this month, a reporter asked the White House about Harris's frequent accent switches during her campaigns for the upcoming presidential election. However, the press secretary bristled at the journalist, saying that the question was ridiculous and will never be entertained.
And now to Europe, where Storm Boris continues to wreak havoc. The storm is battering northeastern and central Italy after a of destruction across the continent. In Italy's Emilia Romagna and Marche region, severe flooding has forced over 1,000 residents to evacuate, with 2 people reported missing. Landslides in the region also railway services have been heavily impacted. The National Fire Department said it carried out more than 500 rescue operations in Emilia Romagna, including with helicopters.
Let's hope the bad weather will mitigate in the next few hours. But we can't have big expectations because it's such a fragile and vulnerable territory. If it is not equipped with infrastructures, it is always exposed to natural attacks.
And another region that's been hit even worse is Faenza City. Overflowing rivers and sewage systems submerge various areas as local mayors ask people to stay on upper floors or leave their homes.
Elderly people in my neighborhood were evacuated already yesterday, protectively, because we were aware it was going to happen. Now we wait for the water to go down and we will start working.
The European Commission president has pledged at least $11 billion in funding to support flood-hit countries. She made the announcement while visiting Poland, where rising river levels continue to threaten the country.
I am here to reassure you that Europe stands by your side. This is a moment of need, of disaster, of natural disaster, and we have all to stand together to overcome the challenge. And it was for me, on one hand, heartbreaking to see the destruction and the devastation through the floods. These are extraordinary times, and extraordinary times need extraordinary measures. At first sight, 10 billion euros are possible to mobilize from the cohesion funds for the countries that are affected. This is an emergency reaction now.
Although the worst of Storm Boris appears to be across much of the continent, the storm until now has already claimed at least 24 lives in Poland, the Czech Republic, Romania, and Austria. While the rain is expected to ease this weekend, the risk of further flooding remains high. And finally, from China, with the country facing a declining population, the government is trying to incentivize marriages. However, divorce rates have hit a record high, up by a whopping 75% from almost a decade ago. And despite divorce being socially frowned upon in Chinese society, business is actually booming. Entrepreneurs are making big bucks from the high separation rates by offering couples a chance to destroy any evidence of their marriage. Our final report offers all the salacious details.
Once upon a time, wedding photos were sacred symbols of eternal love, hung proudly on walls, shimmering with the promise of forever. But forever, it turns out, can be quite short. And now, a quirky business is cashing in on the aftermath of shattered hearts thanks to China's record-high divorce rates. Enter Liu Wei, the self-proclaimed love story morgue operator. He's not your typical matchmaker, in fact, quite the opposite. In 2022, Liu launched a peculiar venture, a factory that turns wedding photos and love memorabilia into confetti. But his business is no laughing matter. As divorce rates soar, Liu's company is thriving. Between 2000 and 2020, divorce rates in China surged from 1.2 million to over 4 million annually. Panicked about the nation's shrinking population, the government imposed a mandatory 30-day cooling-off period in 2021 to curb impulsive separations. Though it worked, sort of. Divorce rates fell below 3 million a year, but marriages are still on the decline. That's where Chinese entrepreneurs like Liu have come in. Liu's customers ship these oversized symbols of romance to his factory. There, his team gets to work. First, they spray paint over the faces, erasing all traces of the once happy couple. Then the photos are fed into industrial shredders and ripped apart like forgotten promises. But wait, there's more. Liu's crew doesn't stop at the pictures. They smash the glass frames with sledgehammers, turning them into glittering fragments of shattered memories. The best part? It's all filmed. Clients receive a personalized destruction video, often set to an upbeat soundtrack for a surprisingly joyous twist. Once everything is shredded and smashed, the remnants are whisked off to a waste-to-energy facility, transforming these relics of love into biofuel. So, while China wrestles with its shrinking birth rate and fewer marriages, Liu Wei's love story morgue continues to thrive. It's a strange, almost poetic business, offering a cathartic end to what was once seen as a timeless commitment. In a country where both partnerships are rapidly evolving, businesses around divorce are booming.
That's the show for today. We certainly thank you for tuning in. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you right back here next week. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired!
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on